Stephen King is a New York Times best-selling novelist who made his name in the horror and fantasy genres with books like Carrie, The Shining, and It. Much of his work has been adapted for film and TV. Stephen King was born on September 21, 1947 in Portland, Maine. He graduated from the University of Maine and later worked as a teacher while establishing himself as a writer. Having also published work under the pseudonym Richard Bachman, King's first horror novel, Carrie, was a huge success. Over the years, King has become known for titles that are both commercially successful and sometimes critically acclaimed. His books have sold more than 350 million copies worldwide and been adapted into numerous successful films. Author Stephen Edwin King was born on September 21, 1947 in Portland, Maine. King is recognized as one of the most famous and successful horror writers of all time. His parents, Donald and Naylor Ruth Pillsbury King, split up when he was very young, and he and his brother David divided their time between Indiana and Connecticut for several years. King later moved back to Maine with his mother and brother. There he graduated from Lisbon Falls High School in 1966. King stayed close to home for college, attending the University of Maine and Orono. There he wrote for the school's newspaper and served in its student government. While in school, King published his first short story, which appeared in startling mystery stories. After graduating with a degree in English in 1970, he tried to find a position as a teacher but had no luck at first. King took a job in a laundry and continued to write stories in his spare time until late 1971, when he began working as an English educator at Hamden Academy. It was that year that he also married fellow writer Tabitha Spruce. In 1973, King sold his first novel, Carrie, the tale of a tormented teen who gets revenge on her peers. The book became a huge success after it was published the following year, allowing him to devote himself to writing full-time. It was later adapted for the big screen with Sissy Spacek as the title character. More popular novels soon followed, including Salem Slot 1975, The Shining 1977, Firestarter 1980, Jojo 1981, and It 1986. While making novels about vehicles, rabbit dogs, and sewer-dwelling monsters, as seen in Jojo and It, respectively, King published several books as Richard Bachman. For early novels, Rage 1977, The Long Walk 1979, Roadwork 1981, and The Running Man 1982 were published under the moniker because of King's concern that the public wouldn't accept more than one book from an author within a year. He came up with the alias after seeing a novel by Richard Stark on his desk, which it turned out was a pseudonym used by Donald Westlake. Coupled with what he heard playing on his record player at the time, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet by Benjamin Turner Overdrive. Television and film adaptations. Although many of King's works were made into film or TV adaptations, Jojo and Firestarter were released for the big screen in 1983 and 84 respectively, while it debuted as a miniseries in 1990. The film The Shining, released in 1980 and starring Jack Nelson and Shelley Duvall, became a renowned horror thriller that has stood the test of time. For a good portion of his career, King wrote novels and stories at a breakneck speed. He published several books per year, but of the 1980s and 90s. His compelling thrilling tales have continued to be used as the basing of numerous films for the big and small screens. Actress Kathy Bates and actor James Caan starred in the critically and commercially successful adaptation of My Story in 1990, with Bates winning an Oscar for her performance as the psychotic Annie Wilkes. 4 years later, the Shawshank Redemption, starring Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman, and based on one of his stories, became another acclaimed outing with multiple Oscar nominations. King's 1978 novel The Stand became a 1994 miniseries with Molly Ringwald and Gary Sinise in the lead, while the mid-90s serialized outing The Green Mile was turned into a 1999 prison-based film starring Tom Hanks and Michael Clarke Duncan. Later work. King continues to create and be involved in provocative projects. He has worked directly in television, writing for series like Kingdom Hospital and Under the Dome, with the latter based on his 2009 novel. In 2011, he published 11/22/63, a novel involving time travel as part of an effort to stop the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. King also wrote Joyland 2013, a pulp fiction-style thriller that takes readers on a journey to uncovering who's behind an unsolved murder. And he surprised audience by releasing Doctor Sleep 2013, a sequel to The Shining, with Sleep hitting no. 1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Personal life. King and his novelist wife divide their time between Florida and Maine. They have 3 children, Naomi Rachel, a Reverend, Joseph Hillstrom, who writes under the pen name Joe Hill and is a noted horror fiction writer in his own right, and Owen Philip, whose first collection of stories was published in 2005. Outside of writing, King is a music fan. He even sometimes plays guitar and sings in a band called Rock Bottom Remainers with fellow literary stars like Davy Barry, Barbara Kingsolver, and Amy Tan. The group has performed a number of times over the years to raise money for charity. King continues to create and be involved in provocative projects. He has worked directly in television, writing for series like Kingdom Hospital and Under the Dome, with the latter based on his 2009 novel in 2011. He published 11/22/63, a novel involving time travel as part of an effort to stop the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. King also wrote Joyland 2013, a pulp fiction-style thriller that takes readers on a journey to uncovering who is behind an unsolved murder. And the surprised auditions by releasing Doctor Sleep 2013, a sequel to The Shining, with Sleep hitting no on the New York Times bestseller list. King and his novelist wife divide their time between Florida and Maine. They have 3 children, Naomi Rachel, a Reverend, Joseph Hillstrom, who writes under the pen name Joe Hill and is a lauded horror fiction writer in his own right, and Owen Philip, whose first collection of stories was published in 2005. Outside of writing, King is a music fan. He even sometimes plays guitar and sings in a band called rock bottom remainders with follow literary stars like Dave Barry, Barbara Kingsolver, and Emmy Tan. The group has performed a number of times over the years to raise money for charity.